The arrival board above Dock 47 flickered so often that Ethan had stopped believing anything it displayed. Every few seconds, his transport to the mining colony changed from delayed to boarding, before returning to delayed again, as though the station's artificial intelligence had developed a nervous habit. He leaned back against his worn tool case and sighed. I've trusted fortune cookies more than this schedule. A four-armed merchant nearby laughed while polishing tiny glowing crystals. Fortune cookies don't control interstellar traffic. They probably should. The station bustled with life. Towering reptilian traders argued over antimatter fuel. Floating maintenance drones zipped between neon signs. Transparent trains raced through vacuum tunnels wrapped around the gigantic orbital city, carrying travelers from thousands of worlds beneath an endless ceiling of stars, visible through reinforced crystal panels. Ethan watched everything with quiet fascination. He had repaired fusion pumps, oxygen recyclers, and gravitic elevators across half the galaxy, yet he still couldn't afford anything nicer than instant coffee that proudly advertised itself as probably drinkable. The vending machine accepted his payment. It thought for several seconds. Then it dispensed a spoon. No coffee? The machine displayed a cheerful message. Congratulations. Your spoon has been upgraded. I didn't own a spoon before, the screen flashed. You're welcome. Ethan stared at it. I just lost an argument to a vending machine. Even the merchant burst into laughter. As Ethan wandered toward another terminal, he noticed a tiny booth squeezed between luxury casinos and expensive souvenir shops. Its faded holographic sign rotated lazily. Galactic Fortune Lottery Grand Prize, Life-Changing Destiny. The booth looked abandoned. Its robotic clerk was asleep, literally asleep. Its charging light blinked, while faint electronic snoring echoed from inside its metal head. Ethan tapped the counter. One glowing eye opened. Customer detected. Statistically unexpected. Comforting. The robot slowly produced a handful of shimmering lottery tickets. Only 2 credits. Ethan smiled. What's the grand prize? A second upgraded spoon. The robot processed the joke. Negative. Inventory indicates 0 upgraded spoons. The merchant called across the walkway. Buy one. Maybe you'll win a wife. Several nearby travelers laughed. Ethan shrugged dramatically. For 2 credits? At worst, I'll receive another kitchen utensil. He handed over the last 2 credits in his account. The ticket felt strangely warm. Not electronic, not holographic. Real paper. He frowned. I thought paper disappeared centuries ago. Some traditions, the robot replied, cannot be digitized. Before Ethan could ask what that meant, every light in the station suddenly dimmed. The cheerful music stopped. Conversations died. Massive holographic projectors awakened overhead, flooding the entire docking district with brilliant golden light. An impossibly calm voice echoed through every corridor. Attention all citizens. Thousands of travelers instinctively looked upward. The Grand Galactic Lottery has Charikate selected its final winner. Ethan chuckled. Imagine if it's me. The merchant grinned. If it is, remember who encouraged you. A heartbeat later, every screen across the station displayed a single name in letters taller than buildings. Winner, Ethan Reyes. Silence spread through the enormous station. Then distant emergency sirens began to howl. Nobody applauded. Nobody even breathed. For several long seconds, the station seemed frozen while Ethan continued staring at his own name, glowing across thousands of holographic displays. He slowly raised one hand. I'd like to report what is probably a clerical error. No one laughed. That worried him. The four-armed merchant who had encouraged him to buy the ticket quietly stepped 3 meters away. I suddenly don't know this human. 5 minutes ago, you wanted a commission. I have reflected upon my life. The station's AI interrupted every communication channel. Winner Ethan Reyes, please remain exactly where you are. Ethan looked around. I wasn't planning to sprint. The polished floor beneath him vibrated. Deep inside the station, gigantic mechanisms awakened with a metallic roar, powerful enough to shake nearby docking bridges. Massive security barriers descended over every exit, while armored drones emerged from concealed compartments in the ceiling. Travelers began whispering. They activated Omega Protocol. Who could the prize possibly be? I heard the last Omega Protocol happened 200 years ago. A young alien child tugged at her mother's sleeve. Mom, did the human break something? Her mother answered without taking her terrified eyes off Ethan. I don't think the human knows. I definitely don't know, Ethan muttered. A thunderous boom echoed through the docking bay. One of the enormous cargo hangar doors, nearly 30 meters tall, slowly split apart. Brilliant white light spilled into the corridor as dozens of anti-gravity transport platforms floated inside. Each platform carried soldiers, not ordinary soldiers. Everyone wore black armor covered with shifting silver symbols that seemed almost alive. Their rifles hummed with contained energy, yet none of them pointed their weapons at Ethan. Instead, they formed two perfectly straight lines. The entire crowd stepped backward. Even the station's security officers saluted. From the darkness beyond the soldiers emerged a single object unlike anything Ethan had ever seen, a crystal capsule, nearly 4 meters long. Ancient silver rings slowly rotated around it, while streams of blue energy flowed beneath its transparent surface like rivers of light. Strange symbols shimmered across the crystal, disappearing before his eyes could fully recognize them. The robot lottery clerk suddenly arrived beside Ethan, moving much faster than before. Its sleepy personality had vanished. Its voice became formal. The grand prize has been delivered. Ethan blinked. That's my prize? Affirmative. It looks expensive. It is beyond valuation, the merchant whispered from behind him. Please tell me that's treasure. The robot paused. It contains one living individual. The merchant immediately hid behind a luggage cart. I preferred treasure. Gasps spread through the crowd. A historian standing nearby turned pale. I recognize those seals. Another scientist adjusted her scanner 3 separate times. Impossible. Those royal containment symbols haven't existed for 1,000 years. Without warning, every silver ring around the capsule locked into place with a deafening click. A calm feminine voice echoed from inside. So, the crystal began to dissolve into sparkling particles. Someone finally won. The last fragments disappeared. Standing inside was a woman whose appearance silenced the entire station. She looked human at first glance. Tall, graceful. Long silver-black hair fell over a dark travel cloak that concealed elegant armor unlike any modern design. Her face carried quiet confidence rather than cruelty. Only one feature marked her as something far older than human. Her beautifully shaped, unmistakably long ears. She slowly opened brilliant amber eyes. The nearest soldiers instinctively lowered their heads, not from protocol, from fear. The woman stepped forward with calm, measured movements until she stood directly before Ethan. She studied him from head to toe. He nervously smiled. Hello. She looked at the wrinkled lottery ticket still clutched in his hand. Then, to everyone's absolute astonishment, she smiled, very slightly. In all my centuries, she said softly, I never imagined destiny would spend only 2 credits. Ethan swallowed. I was hoping for cash. For the first time in what looked like a very long life, the dangerous woman laughed. Her laughter lasted only a few seconds, yet its effect rippled through the docking bay like a gravitational wave. The soldiers exchanged uneasy glances. Several civilians stared in complete disbelief. One elderly alien quietly whispered, I've lived 200 years. Another finished the sentence for him. And I have never heard Nysera laugh. The woman with the long ears turned toward the crowd. The warmth vanished from her expression, replaced by quiet authority. She did not raise her voice, yet every sound inside the station seemed to retreat before it. My name, she said calmly, is Nysera Valarin. Even the station's lighting dimmed slightly, as though the computer itself recognized the name. Thousands of data screens suddenly filled with warning symbols. Classified entity detected. Threat level absolute. Do not engage. Ethan scratched the back of his neck. I was really hoping your file would say, Excellent Gardener. Nysera glanced sideways at him. I have never gardened. Good. That would have been suspicious. To everyone's surprise, the corner of her mouth lifted again. A sharp electronic chime interrupted them. An emergency transmission appeared above the crowd. Attention! By authority of the Galactic Security Council, all civilians must evacuate immediately. Nobody is permitted to approach the prize. The prize? Ethan muttered. I suddenly disliked that word. One armored commander stepped forward and bowed, not to Ethan, but to Nysera. "My lady, shall we escort you?" she answered without looking at him. I no longer answer to military escorts. The commander's expression tightened. "You understand the consequences. I understand them better than you." Silence followed. Then she slowly extended one hand, not toward the commander, toward Ethan. Gasps spread through the station. Ethan looked behind himself. Is there another Ethan standing back there? No. I was hoping. Her amber eyes met his. The ticket. Oh. He awkwardly handed her the wrinkled paper. Instead of taking it, she gently closed his fingers around it. "You keep it. I bought it. You own more than the ticket." Before Ethan could ask what she meant, dozens of crimson lights began flashing throughout the docking ring. The station AI spoke with noticeably less confidence than before. "Warning, unauthorized fleet emerging from hyperspace." A panoramic window overlooking space instantly turned opaque before switching into tactical display mode. Hundreds of enormous warships materialized around the station. None carried national markings. Their hulls were completely black. One child looked up at the projection. "Mom, I know. Those aren't friendly ships." "No," her mother whispered. "They're execution ships." A new transmission forced itself through every communication frequency. A distorted mechanical voice echoed across the station. "Surrender Nysera Valeran." Another pause. "And terminate the human-designated Ethan Reyes." Ethan slowly blinked. "I feel personally attacked." Several frightened civilians actually laughed despite themselves. Nysera folded her arms. "They are early. You were expecting them?" "I expected another hour." "I appreciate your optimism." Without warning, the floor shook violently. An explosion echoed somewhere deep within the station. Emergency bulkheads slammed shut. People screamed as maintenance drones scattered in every direction. The commander activated his energy blade. "They've boarded." Another officer rushed toward him. "They disabled 3 defense grids in less than 30 seconds. Impossible. They knew exactly where to strike." Nysera calmly watched the tactical display. "They always do." Ethan looked from the approaching invasion fleet to the calm woman beside him. "So?" She looked at him. "So?" "I'm beginning to suspect this lottery has a very complicated refund policy." "For the third time since leaving the crystal capsule," Nysera smiled. "You are adapting remarkably well." "I wouldn't call this adapting. What would you call it?" Ethan watched another explosion bloom outside the station window. "Tuesday." For the first time in many years, several of Nysera's own soldiers laughed before remembering they were supposed to be terrified. The first enemy boarding craft struck the station with enough force to send a deep vibration through the metal beneath Ethan's boots. Somewhere overhead, alarms merged with the distant roar of decompression doors sealing entire sectors. Passengers rushed toward emergency shelters. Maintenance drones abandoned their repair routines and began carrying frightened children instead of equipment. The station had transformed from a bustling crossroads of civilizations into a fortress preparing for siege. Ethan looked through the tactical display at the swarm of black ships surrounding the station. "There are a lot of them," Nysera answered quietly. "Yes. How many?" She studied the formation for only a second. 321 warships. "You counted that already?" I stopped halfway. He stared at her. "I suddenly understand why everyone is nervous." The commander approached with hurried steps. "My lady, our security divisions are requesting permission to activate the station's singularity cannons." "No. They'll breach Dock 47 within minutes." "I know. Then why refuse?" Nysera's expression remained calm. "Because the fleet is not here to conquer the station." She slowly turned toward Ethan. "They came for one human." Every eye in the corridor shifted toward him. Ethan awkwardly pointed at himself. "I really wish people would stop saying that." The commander's communicator suddenly crackled. "Commander, internal sensors detected unidentified infiltrators." "Location?" "Already inside Dock 47." The words had barely finished when the lights flickered. 1, 2, 3 times. Then complete darkness swallowed the corridor. A few nervous breaths echoed through the silence. Emergency lighting activated seconds later, bathing everything in crimson. Someone screamed. Another shouted, "They're here!" Shadowy figures appeared at the far end of the docking corridor. Not soldiers, only 6 individuals. Each wore smooth black armor without insignias, their helmets featureless except for a thin strip of glowing blue across the visor. They walked with unsettling confidence, no hurry, no hesitation, as though they already knew exactly how the battle would end. The commander's troops raised their rifles. Halt! None of the newcomers slowed. The commander lowered his hand. Fire! Dozens of plasma bolts streaked through the corridor. An instant before impact, shimmering hexagonal fields unfolded around the 6 strangers. Every shot dissolved into harmless sparks. The crowd gasped. One elderly engineer whispered in disbelief. Adaptive quantum shields. They shouldn't exist. They don't. The lead intruder tilted his head slightly. His distorted mechanical voice echoed through hidden speakers. Correction. They do. In the next heartbeat, he vanished. Not invisibility, acceleration. He crossed 30 meters almost faster than Ethan's eyes could follow. The commander's weapon split neatly into 2 smoking halves before the officer even realized it had been cut. No one had seen the blade move. The remaining soldiers instinctively stepped backward. Except Nysera, she calmly walked forward. Her cloak shifted as she moved, revealing elegant silver armor etched with ancient constellations. The 6 strangers stopped simultaneously. For the first time, they hesitated. So, Nysera said softly, they finally sent the Eclipse Guard. The leader inclined his helmet. Our orders remain unchanged. Surrender. She folded her hands behind her back. No. Then the human dies first. Ethan sighed. I keep ending up on everyone's to-do list. Without looking away from the enemy, Nysera quietly asked, Are you frightened? He considered the question honestly. Terrified. Good. Good? It means your courage will be real. Before he could answer, the leader lunged at Ethan. Nysera moved. Her hand intercepted the attack with impossible precision. Metal met light. A shockwave burst through the corridor, cracking transparent walls and extinguishing every holographic advertisement nearby. Passengers dropped to the floor. The station trembled. Ethan blinked. That definitely isn't normal. No, said the merchant from behind an overturned cargo crate. But somehow, your Tuesdays keep getting worse. Even in the middle of the battle, Ethan couldn't help laughing. A second later, Nysera pushed the assassin backward. With one effortless motion, her amber eyes glowing brighter than before. For the first time since awakening from the crystal capsule, she looked ready to fight. The corridor exploded into motion. The leader of the Eclipse Guard slid backward across the polished floor after Nysera's counterstrike, yet he never lost his balance. His boots carved glowing lines through the metal as hidden stabilizers fought against the force that had pushed him away. He slowly raised his head. For the first time, his calm mechanical voice carried something new. Power level. Confirmed. Nysera stood perfectly still. I warned your masters not to send you. Our masters calculated a 98% probability of victory. They always did enjoy optimistic mathematics. The remaining 5 assassins spread through the corridor with flawless coordination, surrounding her in complete silence. Ethan quietly leaned toward the merchant still hiding behind the cargo crate. Is it too late to ask for the second place prize? The merchant whispered back. I think second place was a toaster. I should have aimed lower. Despite the danger, a nervous laugh escaped several civilians. Nysera glanced toward Ethan without taking her eyes off the assassins. Stay behind me. I was planning to stay behind everyone. The first attacker moved, then the second, then all 6. They became streaks of black light crossing the corridor faster than ordinary eyes could follow. The sound reached everyone after the movement did. Metal, energy, shockwaves. Each collision sent rings of shimmering blue force racing across the walls. Nysera moved with astonishing precision rather than brute strength. Every strike was economical, graceful, almost effortless. Her long ears shifted slightly, as though sensing movements before they happened. She sidestepped one blade, redirected another, caught a third with her bare hand, the assassin's energy weapon freezing only centimeters from her shoulder. The entire station seemed to hold its breath. Then she twisted her wrist. The weapon shattered into thousands of glowing fragments. The assassin immediately retreated. They upgraded your equipment, she observed calmly. They neglected your training. Another explosion echoed somewhere deeper inside the station. Emergency broadcasts overlapped one another. Hull breach detected. Docking ring 9 evacuated. Medical teams report to Sector 12. The battle outside was growing worse. Ethan noticed something strange. The assassins never attacked the civilians. Not once. Every movement focused entirely on Nysera. Or him. He frowned. That's odd. The merchant blinked. What is? They're avoiding everyone else. Nysera heard him. Good observation. One assassin suddenly abandoned the fight and lunged directly toward Ethan. Before anyone else reacted, Ethan instinctively grabbed the heavy maintenance tool case at his feet and threw it with both hands. I paid good money for that. The metal case spun through the air. Pure luck. It struck the assassin squarely in the helmet. The impact wasn't powerful enough to injure him, but it completely ruined his balance. He stumbled sideways into one of his own teammates. Both crashed into a decorative fountain. Water erupted across the corridor. For one stunned second, nobody moved. Even Nysera stared. The merchant blinked twice. Did you just defeat a legendary assassin with a toolbox? I think I surprised both of us. One frightened child hiding behind her mother burst into laughter. The sound spread. Even exhausted station guards chuckled in disbelief. The two assassins climbed out of the fountain dripping with water. One of their damaged voice modulators crackled. Embarrassing, his teammate answered. Agreed. It was the first time Ethan realized they could actually speak to one another. Nysera took advantage of their distraction. With one swift motion, she swept her arm through the air. Ancient silver symbols ignited beneath her feet, expanding into a luminous circle that covered the entire corridor. The station lights flickered violently. Every electronic screen froze. The assassins stopped moving, not because they wanted to, because they couldn't. Invisible force held them exactly where they stood. The leader strained against it. Impossible. Nysera looked at him with quiet disappointment. No. She slowly turned toward Ethan. It is merely old. Before anyone could ask what she meant, the wrinkled lottery ticket inside Ethan's jacket suddenly grew warm. Golden lines appeared across its surface, lines that had not been there before. The faded paper was changing, and every assassin on the station stared at it with unmistakable fear. The golden lines spread across the ancient lottery ticket like veins of liquid sunlight. Symbols no translator could identify slowly emerged from the faded paper, rearranging themselves every few seconds as though the ticket were reading something invisible inside Ethan rather than displaying ordinary text. He turned it over. The reverse side remained blank. I knew I should have read the terms and conditions. No one laughed this time. Even the Eclipse Guard remained motionless inside Nysera's shimmering field, their attention fixed entirely on the glowing ticket. The leader spoke first. The seal has awakened. Nysera's amber eyes narrowed. So, you finally recognize it? Ethan looked between them. Would somebody like to explain why my 2-credit purchase suddenly looks more expensive? The merchant cautiously raised one finger. I vote yes. An elderly station historian slowly stepped forward, ignoring the frightened guards trying to pull him back. His hands trembled as he stared at the ancient symbols. I've seen these once. His voice barely rose above a whisper. In forbidden archives. Nysera inclined her head slightly. Then, you know. The historian swallowed. That isn't a lottery ticket. A heavy silence settled over the corridor. It never was. Ethan blinked. I beg your pardon? The historian continued. The original Lottery of Stars disappeared over 3,000 years ago. I bought mine 20 minutes ago. Exactly. The old scholar looked almost afraid to continue. The lottery wasn't created to distribute wealth. It selected, he hesitated, guardians. Every civilian nearby exchanged confused glances. Ethan frowned. I repair air recyclers. The system does not care. I lost a debate to a coffee machine this morning. The system still does not care. Several people couldn't suppress a laugh. Even under impossible circumstances, the conversation sounded absurd. Nysera finally stepped beside Ethan. The lottery examined every choice you made. My choices? You believe today began when you bought that ticket. She gently shook her head. It began decades ago. Images suddenly erupted from the glowing paper. Tiny golden holograms floated into the air. A young Ethan returning a lost wallet, sharing his lunch with a hungry stranger on a mining colony, repairing an old woman's oxygen generator without accepting payment, stopping to rescue a maintenance drone everyone else ignored. Hundreds, thousands, Moments from an ordinary life. The crowd watched in stunned silence. I don't remember half of these. You weren't supposed to. Nysera's voice carried unexpected warmth. The lottery remembered. The merchant slowly looked at Ethan. You actually are that nice? Ethan shrugged awkwardly. I thought everyone did those things. No, the merchant smiled. They usually charge extra. One little alien girl hiding beside her mother pointed toward another floating memory. Look, the image showed Ethan patiently teaching an abandoned service robot how to play a simple card game while waiting through another delayed transport. The robot in the memory celebrated every victory with flashing lights. Present-day station robots quietly replayed the scene. Several emitted soft electronic chimes that almost sounded emotional. The historian exhaled. The ancient system wasn't searching for warriors. It searched for character. The leader of the Eclipse Guard suddenly strained against the invisible field. His voice lost its mechanical calm. If he completes the inheritance, the council loses everything. Ethan turned. What inheritance? Nobody answered immediately. Outside the panoramic windows, another wave of black warships emerged from hyperspace. Not dozens, hundreds more. The stars themselves seemed to disappear behind the arriving fleet. The station AI interrupted every channel. Warning, total hostile vessels now exceed 1,000. Passengers gasped. Someone whispered a prayer. Someone else simply sat down. The merchant looked toward Ethan. I officially regret suggesting you buy that ticket. I regret listening. Nysera, however, was watching only the paper still glowing in Ethan's hand. It has chosen, she spoke so quietly, only he heard. And once it chooses, she looked into his eyes. Not even empires can persuade it to change its mind. Before Ethan could ask another question, the golden symbols detached from the ticket itself. One after another, they floated into the air. Then they circled him. Slowly, deliberately, as though they had finally found the person they had been searching for across thousands of years. The golden symbols completed their final circle around Ethan before settling gently into the wrinkled lottery ticket. Everything became still. The invisible force imprisoning the Eclipse Guard vanished at the exact same moment. None of them attacked. Instead, the 6 assassins lowered their weapons. Their leader slowly removed his helmet, revealing an aging face marked by decades of battle rather than cruelty. He looked at Ethan, then at the glowing ticket, and finally bowed his head. The selection is complete. Throughout the station, confused murmurs spread. One of Nysera's former commanders stared in disbelief. They're surrendering? No, Nysera answered softly. They're remembering. The leader turned toward the panoramic windows, where more than 1,000 black warships floated in silence around the station. He activated a secure transmission. The Guardian has been chosen. For several long seconds, nothing happened. Then, one by one, the warships powered down their weapons. Rows of crimson targeting lights disappeared. Missile bays closed. The fleet that had terrified half the galaxy simply stopped. Every screen aboard the station suddenly changed. Ancient recordings flooded every public display. A woman wearing the same elegant long ears as Nysera appeared, her image preserved across thousands of years. If you are witnessing this, she said, our civilization has survived only because truth was hidden. She explained that the lottery of stars had never been entertainment. It was the final safeguard of an empire that feared corruption more than invasion. No bloodline could inherit absolute authority. No army could seize it. Only an ordinary soul who repeatedly chose kindness without expecting reward could awaken the ancient covenant. The ticket was merely the final key. Ethan looked around in disbelief. So, he scratched his head. I accidentally applied for the biggest job interview in Galactic history. The elderly historian smiled. You passed before you even knew there was an application. Laughter rolled through the exhausted station. Even soldiers smiled. Nysera stepped beside Ethan. For the first time, there was no loneliness in her amber eyes. My people called me the most dangerous woman in the galaxy. She looked toward the countless worlds displayed on the tactical map. They were only told half the story. The ancient recording continued, exposing centuries of manipulation by the Galactic Council, which had hidden the truth to rule through fear. Every encrypted archive unlocked simultaneously, broadcasting the evidence across inhabited space where Governments could no longer deny it. The conspiracy collapsed in a single day. Weeks later, reconstruction ships filled the station where frightened civilians had once fled through smoke-filled corridors. The Black Fleet no longer carried weapons. It escorted relief convoys instead. The former Eclipse Guard became protectors of the restored alliance. As for Ethan, he refused every palace offered to him. He insisted on keeping his battered toolbox. It still works, the merchant laughed. You defeated an assassin with that thing. I'm emotionally attached now. Nysera often found him repairing damaged life support systems alongside ordinary engineers, despite possessing authority greater than most rulers. You could command entire star systems, she reminded him one afternoon. I know. Instead, you're fixing an air recycler. He tightened one final bolt. If people can breathe because I repaired this, he smiled. That's a pretty good day. She quietly took his hand. I spent centuries believing power protected civilizations. And now? Now I know character does. Years later, inside the newly built Galactic Museum, the most visited exhibit was neither an ancient crown nor a legendary weapon. It was a faded 2-credit lottery ticket resting inside a simple glass case. Children always ask the same question. How did one human win the most dangerous woman in the galaxy? Ethan, now older but still carrying the same weathered toolbox, always answered with a grin. I didn't. He looked toward Nysera, who still smiled exactly as she had on the day the crystal capsule opened. I won the chance to meet the right person. The merchant, now running the museum gift shop, never missed the opportunity to add, and if anyone wants to try their luck. He proudly held up a souvenir ticket. These are only 5 credits. Ethan sighed. Inflation really is the galaxy's greatest villain. This time, everyone laughed.